I still remember the day I met him like it was yesterday. We were at a mutual friend's birthday party, and he walked in with this charming smile, effortlessly commanding the attention of everyone in the room. I was immediately drawn to his confidence and charisma. We struck up a conversation, and before I knew it, we were laughing and joking like old friends. At first, everything seemed perfect. He was handsome, successful, and had a quick wit that left me breathless. We spent the next few weeks dating, and I couldn't help but feel like I'd finally found my soulmate. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, I started to notice some red flags. He was consistently late, often showing up 10-15 minutes after our agreed-upon time. When I called him out on it, he brushed it off, saying he was just running a little behind. But the excuses kept coming. He'd cancel plans at the last minute or claim to be busy when I needed him. I brushed it off as a minor quirk at first, but as the incidents piled up, I realized that this was a pattern. And it wasn't just his punctuality that had me worried. It was the way he treated others. He'd often make snide comments about his friends, belittling them in front of me. And when I tried to speak up and correct him, he'd get defensive, claiming I was too sensitive. Despite my growing unease, I found myself staying in the relationship. Maybe it was because I'd invested so much emotional energy into it, or maybe I just didn't want to admit that I was wrong. But as the months went by, I started to feel like I was losing myself in the process. It wasn't until my ex-boyfriend Alex came back into the picture that I realized I was dating the wrong guy all along. We'd been on again, off again for years, and I thought we'd finally broken up for good. But then he reached out asking if I wanted to grab coffee and catch up. I agreed, and over a cup of coffee, he told me about his latest relationship. It was with a guy who was kind, genuine, and treated him with respect. As Alex spoke, I couldn't help but compare it to my current relationship. "Trust your instincts," he said, his eyes locked on mine. "If something feels off, it probably is." I took a deep breath and listened to his words. And as I did, I realized that Alex was right. I'd been ignoring the warning signs, telling myself that my guy was just going through a phase. But the truth was, he was a toxic influence in my life. As I reflected on our relationship, I started to notice the other signs that Alex had mentioned. My guy was controlling and possessive, always questioning my whereabouts and who I was with. He'd get jealous when I talked to other guys, or even just laughed at their jokes. And then there was the way he treated me, like I was his property, not a partner. He'd criticize my appearance, my taste in music, and even my favorite foods. It was then that I realized I'd been dating the wrong guy all along. He wasn't the charming, charismatic man I thought he was. He was a manipulative, emotionally abusive partner. I ended the relationship that day, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. But as I looked back on my time with him, I realized that I'd been given a second chance, a chance to learn from my mistakes and find someone who truly loved and respected me. And that's exactly what I did. With Alex's guidance, I started to focus on myself and my own happiness. I joined a book club, took up painting, and even started volunteering at a local animal shelter. It wasn't easy, but slowly, I began to heal. And as I did, I realized that I'd been given a rare gift, the chance to learn from my mistakes and find someone who truly loved me for who I was. Epilogue. A year after I ended my toxic relationship, I met someone new. His name was Max, and he was everything my ex-boyfriend wasn't: kind, genuine, and respectful. We met at a coffee shop, bonding over our shared love of literature. As we talked, I realized that Max was different from the other guys I'd dated. He listened to me without interrupting, and he made me laugh with his quick wit. We started dating, and I was amazed at how easy it was. He treated me with kindness and respect, never trying to control or manipulate me. As we sat on the beach one day watching the sunset, Max turned to me and said, "I'm so glad I met you. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me." And in that moment, I knew that I'd finally found my soulmate, someone who loved and respected me for who I was, without trying to change me. The end. This story follows the classic romance structure. Introduction. We meet the protagonist, who is dating a guy named Max. She's happy at first, but starts to notice some red flags. Meet cute. The protagonist meets her ex-boyfriend, Alex, who has a new perspective on relationships. A building relationship. The protagonist starts to reflect on her relationship with Max, realizing that he's not the right guy for her. Conflict. The protagonist must confront her feelings and the obstacles in her relationship with Max. Climax. The protagonist realizes that she's been dating the wrong guy all along and ends the relationship. Resolution. The protagonist starts to focus on herself and her own happiness, learning from her mistakes and finding someone who truly loves and respects her. This story also explores the theme of heart-to-heart love stories, where the protagonist learns to trust her instincts and prioritize her own happiness.